Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. Today, Dr. Barnsley Brown is in the house. And Barnsley, we love to jump right in with a powerful question when we start these episodes off to get the energy in the right place to help people break those chains that are holding them back in their lives. What unexpected source of inspiration in your life led you to leaving your career as a professor at UNC back in the year 2000 and starting your own coaching business? What was that inspiration that caused that to happen?
Well, basically, it was turning the crap into compost, if we could say, Rob. And that was, I had been made a tenure track offer that had been everything, quote unquote, that I had wanted in an academic position. But then I had this whole thing that happened with the leadership that really was an abuse of power. And it's something that I had seen in academia over and over and over again. And I had just had it. And so I realized at that moment, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this organization. I do not want to do this anymore. I am not willing to kowtow to other people. I want to be my own boss and I want to run my own business with integrity. So I have to thank the person who really pulled a stunt and pretended he had not made an offer to me that he had made for that tenure track position. And I just let it go and went on.
I love what you said right there at the beginning of that, turning the crap into compost.
Yep.
I've heard it said many other ways, but I've never heard it said that way before. That is awesome. Okay, so let's get more into this story. But first, I just got to shout out to everybody who's watching and listening right now. This is the Unstuck movement, true testimonies of breakthrough. Thanking the sponsor who makes this platform possible, the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. With us today, the incredible Dr. Barnsley Brown. She excels in helping business owners rapidly achieve six-figure growth with her coaching programs and transformational Reiki training. She's also the host of the Bold Badass Business Show and author of How to Overcome Overwhelm in 7 Easy Steps. Overwhelm is such a humongous problem for people. There's so much happening in the world. There's so much happening in the business world and personal life. It can be overwhelming at times. Is this something that you experience for yourself? Oftentimes, like you said, we take the crap and turn it into compost.
Of course, Rob. We always teach what we're learning. We always teach what we're learning, right? Of course. I mean, this is the whole situation with entrepreneurs, right? Especially those of us who are mostly solopreneurs. Like, I have a team. I have 2 VAs. I have my tax person. I have my, my insurance person. I have a team, but nobody's working with me all the time as my employee. They're all in contract, essentially. And so what happens with those of us who are solopreneurs is we do have everything coming at us, and we're just trying to do this elaborate juggling act. We're trying to knock down 12 bowling pins with like a quarter of a ball sometimes, and it can be discomforting. So the thing too is that I find that a lot of entrepreneurs we lose focus. Most people are focused on the 20% of the 80% of their business that's creating 20% of the results, right? Instead of the 20% of their business that is going to create most of their results. And so when we can eliminate that 80% that isn't doing much at all and just focus on the 20% that is the power, the power right there, then we can just immediately skyrocket and catapult our business pretty immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Because if you can hone in and focus on that 20% that's bringing in 80, that's everything. But we get so distracted. There's so many different things happening.
We do.
That's where the overwhelm comes from. And finding that clarity, getting that clarity is so important. Going back to you leaving your career position and profession and jumping into coaching in the year 2000, that to me is something in itself to have that clarity to be able to do that. Because were people even talking about coaching as much back in the year 2000? I feel like it was kind of like an unknown field or a very confusing field to a lot of people. How did you end up doing that? Almost 24 years ago.
I was on the cutting edge in a number of ways because I was doing Reiki, stress, and pain relief when it was considered something strange and weird. Now it's in integrative medicine. People have it. I mean, Duke has Reiki practitioners. UNC Hospital has Reiki. All these hospitals have Reiki practitioners now. But then it was something where people thought they were, weird women in tawdry dresses, and you had to go in the back of a massage parlor to get Reiki. So I was on the cutting edge with that. And I was also on the cutting edge in what I did in academia. And so I think I had a little bit of an advantage in that I don't mind being on the margins, right? I really don't, Rob. I've always advocated for animals and people who have been disenfranchised. I've always advocated for children. Anyone who's been victimized, I've advocated for in my life. And that is kind of a marginal position, sadly, but it is. And so I think that really helped me when it came time to finally realize, this is not where I want my energy. I was okay with being in a risky position, right? Which is what the marginal position is, basically. And I think that gave me a bit of an advantage.
How do you encourage somebody to be comfortable in a risky position like that, being in that marginal area? Because that's one of the most difficult parts for entrepreneurs or somebody thinking about taking that leap into creating their own business. It's being comfortable in that risk. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or did you have to figure that out for yourself? What's that journey been like?
Oh, Lord, Rob, I had to figure it out for myself. And a big part of it was starting to learn prosperity principles, because nobody talked about money. And one of the things you've got to do when you're going to start a business is you need to do as much as you can to simplify your life and to get your money in order so that you can afford to do it. Because it is not going to immediately be a full-time income. People think they're going to create that, but that's not the case. And you're going to need to invest. If you want to create a six-figure business fast, you can imagine that you're going to invest probably $20,000 to do that. All right. So I started basically studying prosperity principles and starting to get my money in order. But I also simplified my life so that my living needs were a lot less expensive, right? And I was also coming out of graduate school, Rob, where I'd made like $13,000 a year, but still had a great lifestyle, which was a great advantage. But I learned how to use my money, time, energy, money, and focus. Those are our resources, how to use them most efficiently. And I can tell you that it has really paid off. Now, 24 years later, I'm very happy to say that I am I have a great net wealth or net worth, as some people call it. One of my coaches calls it net wealth. And I like that because our worth is not part of that. But I have that because of incremental steps. You see, this is the thing. And because I learned and practiced principles for years. And actually, they're in my book, Rob. I have a book package that is called Get Out of Debt, Get On With Your Life. And it is meant for solopreneurs so you can get your SHVALT in order and be able to do the thing that God gave you to do, right? That's why we're here. I think it's so sad when people want to stay in a job they hate, or they stay in a place like, if I had stayed in academia, I would have basically been staying in a place that felt very misaligned with my integrity. It's very sad to me when people just give up, resign themselves to staying in that cubicle or staying in that place that's not aligned with their values and just living out, I'm going to work till I die, that sort of attitude. No, that's not why we're here. You're here because you have a mission. Call it a divine mission, call it a mission from the universe, but you have a mission that is yours and yours alone. And so everybody listening, you got to do the work to get your affairs in order so you can take the leap and not feel like you're just going to be free falling.
Yeah, absolutely. Having yourself prepared, building that, the comfortableness, you want to be comfortable, but you want to feel the comfort and the safety when you're taking the risks, that you're prepared for that. And I really loved that you said net wealth, not net worth, because I never even thought about it that way. Your net worth is like you're putting your self-worth into what you make. So net wealth is a much better way to say that. I'm going to change my vocabulary on that now that I've heard that from you.
Kudos to Penelope Jane Smith for that. One of my coaches. Kudos,
okay.
Penelope.
Awesome.
I think it's
that.
fantastic. And, I love the word wealth. I just have to say that really quickly, Rob, because the origin of the word wealth is from weal, W-E-A-L, which was Old English for well-being. Now, think about that. When we think about our net wealth, our well-being, having a passionate, profitable mission, a business that nourishes you and also leaves a legacy that is positive in the world that is the best well-being I believe we can have. And I call them God bumps as I say that. So somebody here really needs to hear that. This is your wealth, this calling that you have, this thing that's in your heart that you've been yearning to do, and something's holding you back. And I love that your podcast is the Unstuck movement, Rob, because so many people do get stuck and they stay super glued their whole freaking life.
Yeah, it can be it easily can happen just because you might not be paying attention, and you might not be paying attention to who's around you, and you're not paying attention to what you're thinking and what those thoughts create in your actions. And it's just an unawareness. And then to become aware of that, now the fear sets in of like, oh, wow, I need to change. And that change is also a pushing force, that resisting factor. But as you move through that resistance and it becomes the momentum behind you, then you're unstoppable. That momentum is unstoppable. But getting yourself to that place of momentum is the key. That's the key in our life.
And we get out of denial. Get out of denial. Yeah. Denial should only be a river. Get out of it. Stop living in denial, right? How can you tell you're living in denial? You're procrastinating, right? You feel anxiety. You're saying things like, I'm stuck. Or you're saying things like, well, I don't know. I just don't know what to do next. I feel lost. All of that shows that you're in denial. And when you get in a program with me, sorry, I'm not going to let you stay there, right? I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you move through that you bust through it. I remember doing a couple of workshops, actually, Rob, in which we broke boards. One was with Tony Robbins. One was in a transformational leadership program. And these are thick boards. I have my boards over here, like pretty thick. And I just remember that moment when you're preparing, you're getting ready. But once you hit it and you go through, then it's like butter. Right. You can think about that in your life. All the things that you're doing to prepare are great, but there comes that moment when you're going to hit that board and you have to believe with full conviction and full commitment that board is going to break. And that's when you have breakthrough. Full conviction, full commitment, no indecision, no fear, no procrastination, no, I don't know, I feel lost. None of that.
Right. And usually to get to that place, you've got to bang your hand against the board a few times and then build up the calluses to break through. Can I share a story with you that's comparable to that?
Please
I have a great friend of mine, Mark Cox. And Mark is a martial arts expert. And we were at an event and he had beer bottles. And so you would take the open end of the beer bottle and you'd slam your hand against it. So you'd slam your hand. And if you did it right, the pressure of you slamming your hand against the open part of the bottle would bust out the bottom of the bottle. And we did it. And I hurt the crap out of my hand doing it. My hand hurt so bad after like 15 tries, but finally I hit it perfectly where I hit that and the pressure shot the bottom of the bottle out. And I was like, holy cow, I can bust this bottle just with the pressure I created. And so just what you're saying right there, it made me think of this also, the pressure that you feel when you're trying to break through, because you can create a massive amount of pressure on yourself. When you use that pressure and condense it in the right direction, you aim it and target it in the right direction, you will experience that breakthrough. But when you let that pressure kind of build up and it has no driving force to a specific area or a specific thing, clarity on what you're trying to find that breakthrough in, when you find that, you're going to have amazing results. When you don't find it and you disperse that pressure and that energy all over the place, you're just going to end up exhausted and either breaking your hand or whatever the outcome might be. But, that's I love in life that everything in the macro is true in the micro. It's like goes back and forth, and it always blows my mind. These stories of breaking a board directly correlate to you having a breakthrough in your business and your life.
Oh, yeah. And you know what you're saying about that as well? Like, using pressure. We take coaching programs. I invest so much. I invest, gosh, over 30,000 a year in my own professional development. Why? Because I've got to stay cutting edge, but I also put pressure on myself through these programs. And my program puts pressure on people too, to stay true and accountable to what we say we want. We've got to stay true and accountable to what we say we want. And this is not something we can do by ourselves. We need coaches. We need people who are going to give us, as I call it, this is a very important business acronym. They'll give us the GBK, Rob, which is the gentle butt kick. Yeah, that's what we need. We need people who are going to be there and coax us over the hot coals when we feel afraid, or people who are just a little further along than us and can say, look, here's what happened to me. I mean, this is what happened to me. Everything in my life fell apart before I started my business, which is true. The tenure track offer, the guy, the relationship ended. I felt like I had nothing more to lose, really. Yeah. I felt like I was kind of bottom of the barrel, you all. And I am so grateful. That's what I meant by turning your crap into compost. I am so grateful that those things happened, because at that moment, you know what I said to myself? I said, there's nothing else to lose. Why not start my own business?
I love it.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Nothing else to lose.
Just go for it. Yeah, the only thing you're gonna miss out on is the regret that you're going to experience by not doing it, right? And nobody's going to miss the regret of years, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? And you chose the pain of discipline to go through that and strengthen yourself.
Whoa. So no, Rob, wait, that is some genius. The pain of discipline versus the pain of regret, man. It's
true. We have a choice in our life between one or the other. You pick one or the other all the time. Are you going to discipline yourself, or are you going to live in that regret? And I personally lived in enough regret. I'm like, I'm done with that crap. I'm going to go through the pain of discipline to get the things I want in life. And I encourage other people to do that. And I think that we all have our own threshold. And when you've reached that threshold, and when you have to move and it's time to move, and you need the right people in your life to help you to move. Like you said, a gentle butt kick. Right. You need somebody to kick you in the pants and tell you, get moving. It's time to do this. And that's what a great coach does. That's what a great friend does. A great mentor does. It's like, listen, I know this is tough, but I'm going to keep pushing you because you've got to move forward, because I want to see you succeed. It's as simple.
And I'm going to make it easier for you, because I'm going to help you stop all the stuff you're doing that doesn't contribute to your net wealth. I'm going to stop you from doing the busy work, and we're going to focus on the revenue generating activities. And I call them also love generating activities, because they create a living legacy in the world.
I love that. Okay. So I want to jump in. We got to jump into the sponsor ad real quick. We're going to shout out to the Connected Leaders Academy. When we come back in 60 seconds, I want to talk about this. You said the love. How did you just word that right there? The love activities?
We got to focus on the revenue generating activities. And I also call them the love generating activities, because they are the living legacy you leave in this world.
I can tell that you said that before. That's perfect. So in
Not
60
quite
seconds,
in those words, but hey.
I want to know more about love generating activities and how we can bring more of those into our life in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So Barnsley, I want to share this with you really quickly because I've told this story numerous times in the podcast, but it came up when you were talking about these love generating activities. I had a dream several years ago, and in the dream, my grandma was in the car with me, and it was God speaking to me through my grandma, right? But my grandma leaned over and hugged me, and I said, "Graham, what are you doing? You're going to wreck the car. You're driving." And she said, "Don't worry about where we're going. Just love me. Don't worry about where you're going. Just love people." And I've been using this on a daily basis to realign myself when I get out of alignment. Like, am I focusing on where I'm going, or am I focusing on loving people? And if I'm focusing on loving people, the where I'm going is going to work itself out. So when you talk about creating love generating activities, what does that mean in practical sense? What do those things look like?
All right, so let's just talk about enrollment conversations, because a lot of people are allergic to sales. All right, I call it enrollment because I don't like the word sales either.
I love
So
that.
when
That's
we
good.
have an enrollment conversation, if we are doing this in the most powerful way, we are really serving that person in front of us, whether or not they ever engage with us, whether or not they ever purchase what we have to offer, whether or not they ever refer us people. This may be the only time that someone really deeply listens to that person and what they want in their lives and what they feel led to do. And I really see it as a sacred thing to be there in enrollment conversation and really be deep. And sometimes, a lot of times, if it is very powerful, someone will cry. And a lot of times I'll cry with them because what's coming up needs to see the light of day. It hasn't seen the light of day. There's a reason why you were in that conversation with them. There's a reason, because something needs to come forward. Something needs to be given birth. Something needs to be resurrected within them, right? There's something that needs to be given new life. And I really believe that when we approach our business that way, like I said a prayer right before we came on here. I do it on my podcast. Why? Because when we're in attitude of service, then everything else does work out. And we don't worry, what am I going to say? We don't worry. We let ourselves be guided, right? And that everything does work out that way. But when we get into the worries and catastrophizing, which is really the ego mind, not the higher self, not that divine spark. The divine spark doesn't worry about that stuff. The divine spark is just like, let's ignite people. But when we're worried from ego mind, then we're not going to be effective. It's all about us, not about anybody else.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? The ego mind, it does not like space. It does not like silence. It does not like sitting in that place. The divine mind loves sitting in that place, loves resting in that place, because that's where rest comes from. And that's where inspiration comes from. That's where creativity comes from. So the ego mind is constantly like, that's when that dream I just talked about, right? That was, don't worry about where you're going, because that's the ego mind. Always busy, never stopping, always worrying or accomplishing or whatever. The loving people part, man, there's so much space there. There's so much room. There's so much acceptance. And you're so right. If we can approach life that way, a business, of course, that way, we can approach life that way and embrace that in every area of our life, then everything changes. The people in your life change. Your relationships with people in your life change. Your relationship with yourself changes. Everything gets better from that place. And
your
I really,
happiness level skyrockets.
Yes.
It skyrockets. And, our world needs more people who are happy instead of violent or hateful, spiteful. And that all comes from not spending time to love ourselves and love others. When we don't spend our time that way, then essentially we move into that striving, accomplishment arena. It's actually, it's funny, we're going to come full circle here, Rob, but it's one of the things that I never liked about academia is that it was like so intellectual, it was all mind driven, and people were so competitive in a very spiteful way, about and just ego based way, let's put it that way. And I never enjoyed that about it.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So I was thinking, was you were saying about academia and talking about going into this more heart love based place. How did you make that transition? Because obviously you were so entrenched in that world, coming out of that and reshaping how you thought. How did that happen for you?
That is such a good question. And I'll tell you, I always felt like that proverbial, square peg trying to go into a round hole. And now sometimes I ask myself, how on earth was I able to get my PhD and publish in all those academic journals and do all this stuff? I ask myself that. And I think, but you're asking, how did it come about that you opened up to love? Reiki was a huge part of that, Rob, actually, because I had a really bad car accident in the 90s. I was the 6th car in a 7-car pileup. And basically, if I had not had my seatbelt on and my friend who was in the car had not had hers on, then we would have died. I mean, we were on a highway. There was nowhere to go. There was just like a tiny little 6-inch side of the road and those big barricade things. And we hit hard. I had enough time to say, help me, Jesus. I kid you not. That's how much time I had. I said, help me, Jesus. And we hit. And I tell you, what happened from that is I had never been really open to Reiki. I thought it was weird. Even though in the Bible, I grew up with the Bible and Presbyterianism, and we talk about gifts of the Spirit, and the laying on of hands is one of the gifts of the Spirit. Reiki's like a system for that. Well, I still didn't want any part of it. I thought it was weird, like my ego mind didn't want to have any part of it. But that weekend, literally, the wife of one of my favorite professors, I was away at a poetry thing. That's where we were going, a poetry event at my old alma mater at Wake Forest University. She offered me Reiki. And the only reason I agreed to have some to experience it, and she put her hands on my back and they felt really hot. The only reason was because I didn't want to take the painkillers that knocked me out, Rob. I did not want to take those painkillers. But after 30 minutes, my pain was gone. Now, I then began this whole journey in which I would say all these masks and all this ego crap just came off of me slowly but surely. And I began to reconnect with my joy. And I began to spend time in silence every morning doing a self-treatment of Reiki, which I do to this day, 32 years of this. It's my time to pray. It's my time to, sometimes I listen to tapes. It's my time, or, music. It's my time to meditate. And thank God for that. It changed me. That accident changed me. And that, again, is one of those surprising things that brought about just incredible blessings in my life. And it would not have happened without my car being 92% totaled in that accident.
So everybody who listens to this show knows that there's a constant theme that goes throughout all of the episodes, and that theme is making your mess your message. I'm going to add crap to compost now because you did, and your curse can become a gift. And that truly is like, if you look at everything in your life as a blessing, you might not see the blessing the instant it happens, but if you look back in time, if you keep aligned with truth and with God, those blessings show up. And it's amazing that in such a tragic accident, something that may have ruined somebody else's life, right, who was in that 7-car pileup, for you, it led to a major breakthrough that changed your life, that led to where you are right now. And I encourage everybody out there. I know something bad has happened to you. I don't know on what level, but I know for sure if you look at it the right way and give it time and give it space, you'll find a blessing in it if you choose to receive it. And I know it's so easy to say because I don't know what other people have been through, but just hearing your story and the story of over 100 people who have been on this podcast, that story comes up every single episode. So I want to thank you for sharing that, because that example shows up over and over again, which reveals like the truth of it to me. And it's incredible. So when we were going through starting this episode, and I have you fill out a little form with information, I love to learn about life lessons that people have. And you said 10% of people will love you, 10% will hate you, and 80% haven't made up their minds. So who do you choose to play to and surround yourself with? What does that life lesson, how did that play out for you, and what does it mean to you?
It's such a good question. And really, when I wrote that, I didn't think about what it just came out, right? But to me, it means that, again, just like we're going to focus in our businesses on what really creates results for our clients and for our own business, so we can be a sustainable, profitable business and continue to do the work that God gave us, which is important. Just in the same way that we're going to focus on those people who are our supporters and those people who are truly our tribe. And we're going to work in that arena. And that's plenty of people. And actually, I think it's great. I didn't used to be comfortable with this, but now I'm very comfortable repulsing people. Or repelling people. Well, some people I have repulsed, but repelling them or repulsing them, by something I say, I'm comfortable with that now. This is in my 50s, Rob. But I wasn't always that way. I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to be liked more than I wanted to be effective. All right. And that is a leadership lesson right there. A lot of leaders, you can't be a leader if you want to be liked more than you want to be effective. Don't even go there. So I stopped worrying about that other 90%. I stopped worrying about the 10% that really didn't like me from the moment they met me. They didn't even like my voice, whatever, or the way I looked. I stopped worrying about them, and I stopped worrying about the 80% who hadn't made up their mind. And I've focused on that 10%. And that is all I need to do. That is my province, so to speak. And the other thing about that is that the 10% who have issues with us, well, guess what? They are learning something by the contrast that we present. They're learning something. So those of you who are on here and saying, oh, God, I don't believe in God or whatever, that's fine. You're still learning something by being here. You're being challenged to think about that.
And I always look at it like I'm planting a seed. Whether you know it or not, I just planted a seed and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, so and it's not ragweed.
Yes, yeah, very true. You said about being your 50s. So I'm 40, and I've always felt my entire life, my 50s will be my best decade. And I don't know why, but it's always had that feeling. But what you just said, that switching over from wanting to be liked to being effective, that's where, I found in most of my life, I wanted to be liked so badly that I knew I wasn't being effective, because I was just it was so much about me, ego-minded, instead of like love going out. So I love that you said that, right? Either being liked or being effective. That's so important. So as we have a little bit of time left, I want to hear about just some stories of people that you've worked with, breakthroughs that you've seen from clients that you've worked with, and how people's lives have changed.
Thank you for asking that, because it is the thing I love about doing what I do with my mastermind coaching program, is I get to see people over the course of a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years. A lot of them keep going basically with me, and they may come in and they're about to give up on this business, this calling that they want. They're about to give up on it. Sorry, we have a new foster dog, so he's getting all whiny here. About to give up on that thing that they wanted to always do. They're thinking they're watching bills pile up. They're just getting really frustrated, and they've been taken advantage of. Usually when they get to me, somebody has divested them of a lot of money in some kind of program that did not provide results. So when they get to me, they're filled with distrust of themselves. Sometimes they're angry at a higher power. They're just mad, and they're mad at themselves and beating themselves up. What I love to do is see them when they get those first sales coming in. And for example, someone who, when she began, started at $200 a month, and she just had her first $7,000 day.
Wow.
Now, when that happens, what we know, and I'm just using money as a form of measurement, you all, we know that she's making a huge impact in one day, a $7,000 day, powerful. And she's feeling proud of herself, and she has a sustainable business which will continue to help others. She is living her legacy, and that legacy she was given to create on the planet. So I love seeing those sorts of things. And I love, for example, I have another client right now who was going to shrink a program because it was going from being a group program to a single person program. And I said, no, you don't shrink it. You increase your tuition. And we're going to add VIP days, and we're going to add this and that, because you're serving that person at a much deeper level, even more customized than a small group program. And so she just had her first $10,500 individual coaching package.
Amazing.
Hello. And this is somebody who said to me, yeah, she's like, I can't believe it. I told my husband I can take care of our taxes this year. And he was so excited and so proud of me. And I said, and how are you of yourself? I'm so proud of myself. I have never been this disciplined and had this much momentum in my life, in my business. And she has a spot, by the way, on NBC now. So these are the kind of results I get for my clients with them, right? And I love these success stories. But the biggest thing is that every time a woman, and every time a big-hearted entrepreneur, because that's who I work with, every time someone big-hearted creates more income, the world becomes a better place because we can give more. We can take in more foster dogs. This is he's going to be adopted. I mean, this will be our 5th rescue animal. And I couldn't afford all those vet bills unless I made what I made. We are able to give to the causes that we care about when we are making a good living, a good livelihood. And we model this for our children and the generations to come, so that they realize they don't have to spend a life wishing they had, and they don't have to go to their grave with regret. I wish I had. They can instead live it now, live their legacy now.
Yeah, live your legacy now. Amen. I love that. That's some kick-ass coaching right there.
Yeah.
So
live it now.
If people want to know more about you,
not a fish.
So if they want to find out more about you, they can go to spirited-solutions.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Barnsley Brown. The powerful conversation. I'm so glad that we got connected. Thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Love being here with you, Rob. And y'all get a free ebook at my website, so go on over there and grab it.
Awesome.